You can't keep doing things the way that you've been doing them. You have to level up as a leader. Get clear for yourself on what good leadership looks like. There's like good leadership and poor leadership, right? And everybody kind of knows what good leadership looks like. The biggest hurdle in you being able to grow your 7-figure business often starts with you and your inability to get yourself out of the actual machine of the business. Good leadership looks like setting the vision, building the team that can help me achieve that vision, and then
Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez, COO of 5 7 to 8-figure businesses with Ryan Pineda. Today, I have somebody who I'm just so excited to speak to, someone who's coached so many entrepreneurs, who thrives in bringing people from, $1 million to $10 million to over $100 million in revenue. He's a coach. He's an entrepreneur. Brett Gilliland, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Javi. I'm excited to be here on this show. You guys are doing amazing things, and I'd just love to help however I can.
Yeah, I love it. So you've coached a lot of people. You've grown your own businesses as well. So what's the one reoccurring thing that you see with all these entrepreneurs that's just stopping them from going from like good to great?
Great question. I'm going to qualify my answer by saying I'm not the best when it comes to startup to getting that thing off the ground. I'll use $1 million as a proxy for a steady operation. Like, we got that thing off the ground. That is not my specialty. Once people get to that $1 million, they're like, we got product market fit. We've got something that we know how to get customers. We're serving them at a larger scale. They often hit a little ceiling somewhere between 1 and 3 million. It's a typical sticking point. And what we're especially good at is helping those businesses learn the systems, processes, and even the leadership things that they need to do and learn to be able to keep going. So any of my answers is going to be starting at that $1 million plus point. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Okay. So what stops them, or what is challenging for those entrepreneurs? It's typically an answer by looking in the mirror, right? Like, first and foremost, we stop ourselves, because in order to get from 0 to 1 million, we had to learn, we had to get scrappy. We built the thing from the ground up. And so we know every inch of our business, and we do this thing where we sort of intertwine our own identity with that business. And we have a hard time separating ourselves from it. And in that process, we have a hard time letting go and trusting that others can do the things without us. And so I'm not advocating for like absentee ownership, but I am saying the biggest hurdle in you being able to grow your 7-figure business often starts with you and your inability to get yourself out of the actual machine of the business.
100%. I think that's something that I see a lot, because we coach entrepreneurs as well. And even in our own businesses, very early on, you have these entrepreneurs who they think that they might be able to be the only one in the company that can do a certain job task, or they can do it the best. And even if they are the best at that role, it still makes more sense for them to exit that thing and go be a business owner as opposed to just working a job. So I agree 100%. So what would you say to those people? Like, how do you get them to take the advice and then move out of whatever job that they're doing within the business and really act as a business owner? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah. How do you get somebody to actually make those changes? Yeah. So here's a mindset piece that I'll throw out there, and maybe it'll help somebody. Hopefully it will. And that piece is, it's really a truth. Your business cannot outgrow the collective ability of your team to deliver that. Your business cannot outgrow the capability of your leadership. And so if you are the perfect $1 to $3 million leader, guess how far your business is going to grow? So 1 to 3 million. Like, you've perfectly organized this thing to deliver that level of business, that level of performance. If you become the CEO of a $10 million plus business, guess how far your business now can go? So it's directly correlated to your ability as a leader to lead a higher level business. What you've done to get it there is amazing. And it's actually the thing stopping you from continuing to go. Those things are still necessary, but now they're insufficient. You have to learn what it looks like to lead at the next level. So hopefully that truth is a beginning point. And you've probably seen that as well. let me know if you want to get into some practical ideas about how to.
I would love to. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about practically how can I've brought my business to, we'll call it 3 million, right? How can I practically, what strategies can I use to now get to that next level?
I have a podcast as well, Javier. You probably know that, but I was interviewing somebody just yesterday. It was a husband and wife ownership group who came to us when they were at about 6 million in revenue.
Okay.
And, if there are two of them and each of them can get it to about 3 million, that's about 6 million. But they were stretched. They were tapped, right? They're like, we don't know how we can go further. We know we want to, but we don't know how to go further. So now they're crossing over the 20 million mark. So they figured it out. And I basically asked them this same question we're kicking around right now. And both of them answered a little bit differently. The husband said, I just had to start trusting other people. And the way that he did it, he gave them a little thing to do and then asked them to report back when it was done. And so just that practice, almost like training wheels or baby steps. Here's a thing that I'm going to give to someone else. And it could be a team member that you hired, or it could be an intern. It could be a fractional CFO, right?
Yeah.
Pick your path for learning how to let go. Somebody else can do a task that you once did. And if you practice giving them clear direction on the expected outcome and any instruction, any training on how to do that thing, and you give it to them and ask them to report back when it's done, what he found is that by doing that, he learned that somebody else actually could produce an acceptable result with that task. And that gave him a little bit more trust to try maybe a bigger task or another task. And so he just started with little things to give to other people until he could tell his brain, it's okay. Yeah. It's safe. I can do this. So I found that was useful.
I love that. I think that's, and, starting with those baby steps. So now what's so with these entrepreneurs and what I've seen are they will give somebody a task and they might not give the right process, the right frameworks for them for that intern or that employee to actually succeed. So what's more important? Just finding really, really high quality people or laying out a great SOP for somebody to go execute on? Like, where do you see the pitfalls there?
Yeah. Are you going to make me choose one? Because I want to say both. Right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously the ideal is both. My personal belief is that if I can get really, really smart and talented
people,
get the
right person. Yeah, absolutely.
Then I can give them a pretty shoddy SOP and they'll go fill in the blanks.
You're spot
so
on,
obviously
Javi.
both are super important.
Every time I'm going to choose the amazing person over a well-documented process. Every time. And the next level leadership for all of us is more clarity. People need clarity, and sometimes they don't need micromanagement. I'm not saying that. And I'm not a huge fan of extensive documentation that has to be updated all the time. That's frequently like expired or irrelevant anymore. I'm not a huge fan of that. I am a huge fan of clear expectations on. I call it big three. Every role should have measurable points of accountability. Like, here's how we know if you're winning or not in the role. Measurement 1 is the most important. Measurement 2 is next. And then this is the least important, but more important than all the other tasks that are going to come with the role. These 3 measurable things. And sometimes they're results and sometimes they're key activities. But I want to boil down every role in its simplicity to 3 measurable things. And that's the clarity that I want to give a capable person. And then, they can run from there.
I love that. And I might steal that because I think what happens sometimes with our companies or even the companies that we coach or that are listening, they're going to give like 15 different job tasks to an employee. And they're like, well, like, why aren't they prioritizing the right one? Or why aren't they prioritizing the thing that I think is important? Right. So just getting very clear on what success looks like in the role, I think is something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. So how can
they're moving so fast, Javi. I hate to interrupt, but they're moving so fast. They have the curse of knowledge, and I'll quit saying they. We have the curse of knowledge, right? We're like, we know exactly what it takes to do that role, and it's like second nature to us now, and so we just assume it's going to be second nature to everybody else. But when we go to post that job, right, and say, I got to find somebody to help me in here, if we post it at all, right? Sometimes we just kind of put it out there. Hey, I need some help. And we start finding somebody that might be able to help. But if we're really thoughtful about a job posting, we'll get clear on those big three first, because that's what we're trying to match. We're trying to find somebody who can do A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3 in their sleep and kill it, right? But if we don't articulate it, it's hard to attract the right person. It's hard for them to recognize, oh, that's something that I know how to do. I could do that in my sleep. And anyway, we set ourselves up for failure because we go get the job description from the job board that has the same title as ours because we want to just leverage other people's stuff. And all of a sudden we get this Frankenstein job posting with like a bazillion activities. We need them to do all these things. And then we have no clarity. And we hire to that big fuzzy somebody else's job description. And then we hope that it's going to work out. It's horrible.
For sure. And we see that all the time, or, especially entrepreneurs in that. I mean, they probably graduated from hiring like their cousin or whatever, right? So now, but they're still not getting clear, like you said, on the right person. And then when you come in and coach or whoever, you take a look under the hood and you're like, well, this person probably isn't the right fit for the exact job tasks that we have in place, right? So how does somebody look at their team and really determine whether or not like this is the person that I can trust, besides giving them small tasks? But I mean, hey, is this the right person? And more importantly, is this the right seat? How are entrepreneurs able to evaluate that?
Love that. Great question. So here's the way I would frame that. Every single leader's number one responsibility is to set the vision. I'm a huge Jim Collins fan. He says number one responsibility of every leader is to set the vision. To me, and this is Jim Collins' framework, but this is what I use when I teach people. That starts. There's three components to setting the vision: it's purpose, it's values, and it's mission. And I promise this relates to your question.
No, it's good. Keep going.
Yeah. So every person on your team would be ecstatic about being part of your organization if they fit with your purpose and they're aligned with those values, right? That shared identity, purpose and values, is what makes our business unique and is the way that a business owner can separate from the business and start to scale it. It's like, oh, the business isn't me and I'm not the business. We're separate. And the business deserves to have life on its own. And that starts with getting clear on the purpose and the values, and then the very specific destination-oriented mission that we're up to next. So how does that relate to finding the right person or evaluating if your current team is the right people? If they're extremely passionate, I mean like lit up about the purpose of your business, then they're a fit. If they operate the way that we operate around here, if they are our way of being, that's the values. And if they are that, then they're a fit. And if their skill set is aligned with a role that we need to have happen in order to achieve our mission, then they're a fit. And without those three things, they might be a nice person, they might have great experience, but if they don't match on purpose, values, and mission, then they should probably go somewhere else and contribute in a meaningful way to somebody else's purpose, values, and mission, but not here.
100%. I love that. And the same thing, like, because we do this every quarter, right? We take a look at like our entire team. And I mean, for us, we move pretty quickly. So we tell our students to do it every quarter, but we typically do it maybe like once a month, if not sooner, where it's like, okay, hey, like you mentioned, are they at a minimum, are they meeting their KPIs? Like, are they just doing the job? Right. Yeah. Then are their personal goals still aligned with our goals? Are they still like, for example, I mean, we teach people how to invest in real estate. We teach people how to do a few other things too. And it's like, because we teach these things, sometimes a lot of our salespeople or somebody else might start applying the things that we're teaching, and they might outgrow the role and their personal goals are no longer aligned. And that's awesome, amazing. But unfortunately, it's just not going to be a fit anymore. And then the third one, again, is just like, are their core values aligned with our core values, right? Have they fallen out of alignment in some way, shape, or form? Because, we measure against our core values when we hire people, but, a lot of people, if you do have core values, and I tell a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to, especially as they're starting to scale, they might not. But once you have them, a lot of entrepreneurs measure against those when they bring somebody in. But, people change, situations happen, and they might no longer align for whatever reason, right? And so we have to make sure that we're evaluating those as frequently as possible.
That's a really great practice that you just described. I couldn't agree with it more. As far as a frequency or a cadence, we always teach people to to just build it right into a quarterly review process,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of business owners and a lot of employees are like, reviews. Ooh, I don't want to do that. They kind of hear it as a bad connotation. Whatever. Throw away all the negative stuff around it, but the clarity is key. So clear on performance, for the last period, clear on values for the last period. How are we doing behaviorally there?
Mm-hmm.
And then clear on development. We said you were going to be doing these things to develop yourself, and we'll support you in that development, but are those things happening? So we want to wrap up the previous period with a nice bow, and then we want to prepare to have a killer next period, right? And I like quarterly as a cadence. I think an annual review is just a surprise party. It's like so much happens in a year.
Yeah.
That's a waste of time. Like, you're moving fast, just like you said. So let's get clear on where we're moving together over the next 90 days around performance and development. And if there's any behavior things we need to adjust, let's get clear on that as well.
100%. And I keep on hearing the same word over and over again. It's clarity and getting clear. From what I've seen, and it's great, but from what I've seen, even with like our companies, with the people that we work with, employees operate the best when there is clarity, even in a weird situation where they might not even agree with the direction. But as long as there is clarity in where they're going, they tend to perform better. It's the ambiguity where we start to lose things for sure. So
absolutely.
Now moving into, I just want to know, like, obviously based on the last like 15 minutes, you're extremely knowledgeable. So where'd you cut your teeth? Like, how did you get started in all this?
Yeah. So whether or not you heard of the company, that's less important. But this little wall of shirts represents 10 years of helping a company called Infusionsoft back in the day. Now it's called Keep, Keap. But we grew that business from 7 figures to 100 million. In the process, we built an amazing culture. My background is I'm going to get geeky right now, Javier, but
I love it.
I did this master's program called organizational behavior. It's really about the study of organizations as almost like a living organism. All the parts have to come together to produce results, right? And when we're unhappy with the results of our business, we need to look no further than the system of our organism, the organism or the organization. And so that's me. That's what I know. And when Infusionsoft decided to scale and they went out and got investor money from Silicon Valley, I connected with the CEO and I said, you've got something amazing. I can help you scale it. And he believed me for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, we did that. And along the way, we got these awards like top 25 best small workplaces in America, right? Not just the local best places to work, but like these national great place to work types of awards. And it's because we knew how to build the company based on purpose and values, and that we had a very clear mission that we were up to. And so everything we've talked about to this point, we did that to scale a company. And because we were serving tens of thousands of small businesses with our software, they saw how well we were doing the scaling thing, and they started to ask us to teach them. And so 12 years ago, actually it was December, 12 years ago of 2011, that we did our first little, it was a little bit of like boot camp or intensive day style, 2.5 days of just culture, capital, and strategy, like how you scale a business. And it was super well received. And then we started doing it more and more. And all of a sudden we had built this it was a 7-figure business inside of the $100 million company on training business owners how to go from exhausted and uncertain entrepreneurs to energized and unstoppable CEOs of, anyway, it was fun and we built the whole business around it. And then I bought it and we spun it out about, 5.5, almost 6 years ago now.
Amazing. And so with the entrepreneurs that you're coaching now, are they from all industries? Do you specialize in a specific niche or?
They are from all industries, and you'll find this to be true as well because you've coached a lot of people. But it really doesn't matter what type of business, as long as people are involved, right? Like if you're, and I know you guys do a lot in real estate. Some real estate folks just max out what they can do themselves with a relatively small team. And there's obviously nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. But if you have any service-based kind of business where in order to grow the business, you're going to have to bring on more people, you're going to create more complexity. You got to create an official like executive team at some point. Like any of those people required to scale businesses are the ones that we serve.
I love it. Yeah. And you mentioned something. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a very lean, small operation. Then, because in reality, there's a lot of headache that comes along with, connecting with people and making sure that you're showing up every day to serve them and make sure that the team's all, the organism, as you mentioned, is all moving in the right direction. So, to anyone who's listening, who's running a small business that wants to keep it small, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
But when there is a lot of, I get a lot of value and it's rewarding to come work with the team every single day and continue to grow towards a certain vision. So in your time with Infusionsoft or even now with coaching, like what's one reoccurring thing that you just see over and over and over again that you just feel like if people knew this one little nugget, it would save so much time?
So I'm going to probably say a couple things, but one of them would be you can't just keep doing you can't keep doing things the way that you've been doing them. You have to level up as a leader. So there's really two levers. You have to do something organizationally. There's new process. There's meeting rhythm. There's some structure that you have to build if you want to be able to run an increasingly complex organization. And the other side of it is the leadership level. Like you have to change as a person. So, Clayton Mask, who's the CEO of Keep, where I spent the time with Infusionsoft, Clayton would always say, I'm not the leader today that our business needs me to be 12 months from now, but you can count on the fact, but that by the time we get there, I will be. Like he just had this relentless push because he knew if I don't push myself as a leader, we can't go any further. I will be limiting what we can do. And so there's that single biggest thing is that I have to grow myself to grow this business. And then there's some organization development things that must happen in order to handle the increasing complexity that comes from growing the business.
Love it. So you're telling me that I have to have meetings every day?
You don't have to have meetings every day, but you need a meeting rhythm because it's the only way you can handle this balancing act that every business has to figure out between delivering today's results and building tomorrow's machine. Like that thing is what trips us all up. And we always talk about it like, I gotta spend more time working on the business and not just in it. And that language, I'm not making fun of it. That is true. And the biggest single way that we do that is through putting some structure and process in place in the business that none of us wants to put in place. Like that's just the truth of it. So you have to do annual planning. You have to do quarterly planning. You have to do a weekly dashboard kind of meeting. So you're balancing the daily operational excellence stuff with the long-term strategic progress stuff. And if you don't have the right structure in place, it's nearly impossible because the day-to-day stuff will always pull you in. It'll just suck you right in. 100%. And then you're just where you are.
And I love that you mentioned that at the end there, because if you don't plan out your day, what I found is it will get filled with something. There's going to be somebody coming into your office. There's going to be some email, task, whatever it is like that. So you have to be so intentional with the time that with your time and be stingy with it and organized. Otherwise it's just going to get filled up. So for us, I know like you mentioned, we have our annual planning, quarterly review, quarterly like strategy sessions. And then like among that, we do have like our weekly, like we do a weekly all hands type meeting, and then some sort of like smaller stuff too. Is there an ideal meeting cadence? I know I kind of listed one, but is there anything that I'm missing?
I'll prescribe one. And this is, again, it's along the continuum from long-term strategic to day-to-day execution. Okay. Along there's a set of meetings. On the, on the extreme end of strategic progress, there's the annual planning, right? That's the big picture. We're not going to talk about any operational stuff. Quarterly is still very much on the strategic side. There's a monthly meeting that I think gets overlooked because, again, nobody wants to have another meeting. But the monthly meeting is the bridge between strategic and the operational excellence. Monthly, and I would recommend like 2 to 4 hours, depending on the size of the business, to check in on the quarterly and annual stuff and to handle any of the operational stuff that's bubbling up that we can't handle in a weekly dashboard meeting. There's like big rocks. That's a common language that will come up sometimes. Like, we got to figure this out, but we're running so fast. We don't stop and take time to figure it out. And so that monthly meeting bridges the longer term and dealing with some of the bigger things that come up in the operations. And then weekly, and I called it a dashboard meeting. It's KPI meeting dashboard. It's like, we're looking at the instrument panel. Where is something off? Do we need to make adjustments? And then some teams like to do a daily huddle. And I like that too, for clarity and alignment and make sure we're focused. But I'll call that one as more optional. The rest of them feel like mandatory to me. If you're asking,
I would agree with that. I think so. Not all of our teams meet daily. Like, we have our sales teams; they meet every single day. I think they kind of need that the rah type stuff, and just to get clear, talk about wins and all of that. But for the most part, our meeting cadences are very similar. We don't do a true monthly strategy meeting. I really like that. I think we're gonna start implementing. But then, as far as us goes, I mean, we have a bunch of different businesses, so it's important for us to have that monthly meeting because we're going to need the clarity. Otherwise, things definitely get lost. So, at what point, like, are there any businesses where you're like, you know what, I just can't help you? They're still in, they qualify financially, but they're just like, there's nothing I can do for you.
Yeah, I talk to those people often. I think, well, you guys have a family of businesses now, but maybe when Ryan was by himself doing the thing, I don't mean by himself entirely, but when there was a business,
solo business,
solo business. Again, I think real estate, where the transaction, the amounts are high, right? It's not like other businesses where the transactions are a smaller dollar amount. And so you can grow a larger business in a business like real estate with a power team, a relatively small power team. Don't want to scale it. It's awesome, right? I got my lifestyle. I got I got enough financial money.
Transaction.
Transaction running through this business that it works. That's great. But there are some of those businesses who want to kind of take it to the next level and start to build out more team. Maybe geographically they're expanding, or maybe they get into coaching. So I have helped some of those businesses, but sometimes that's not a business that makes sense. Another one is like internet-based businesses where it's mostly just information, memberships, online sales, and it's not like we're going to grow a team. It's more like just leveraging technology. But if it's a SaaS business where there's a whole team behind it to support it and do it, then we help those businesses. Yeah.
So mostly people-driven organizations.
People-driven organizations we help all the time. The more, smaller power team kind of businesses that are just going to stay small in people, we don't help those.
Love it. Yeah. And the more I'm in business, the more I realize that it's all people. It's
right.
Strict, like that's it. People think, on the outside looking in, that it's, numbers and spreadsheets, and it is all of that. But I would say the vast majority of my time as a leader is spent on people and driving the business forward with them. So how does we've talked about kind of growing on the organizational side. How do I grow as a leader? What's like that first step that I can take if I haven't done any leadership training in the past?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And we created something called the Elite Leadership Academy because we had enough business owners coming through our community saying, I gotta get better as a leader. So without attending Elite Leadership Academy, here are some highlights. You have to get clear for yourself on what good leadership looks like first. Like I'm a strong advocate especially for a scaling business, to get their own leadership model. And it's not like leadership is done a million ways. There's like good leadership and poor leadership, right? And everybody kind of knows what good leadership looks like, But if you haven't gone through the exercise of really defining for yourself, what does it mean to be a good leader? Or what will be my sources of truth around that, right? Am I going to follow and listen to and lead, attend everything that John Maxwell does? Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Am I going to go to Elite Leadership Academy? Maybe. Am I going to go see Dave Ramsey, or I'm going to hang out with Javi and team, and they're going to teach me leadership? Wherever you go, get clear first on what you think it looks like to be a good leader. And then you can start learning about how to do that. And then you can start planning a little game plan. How am I going to practice this? Because just like the baby steps of delegating that we talked about earlier, there are other things like, what does it really mean to set a vision with my team? Maybe I don't do that well today. How do I become that? Well, you start expanding the time frame with which you operate with them. You start saying, hey, I was thinking not just about next week or next month, but I've been thinking about next year or a few years from now. And I want to pull you into some of those conversations. And so you just start expanding the way that you think and talk with your team about some of these things. So I don't know. For me, good leadership looks like setting the vision, which we already talked about, building the team that can help me achieve that vision, and then making sure we have the resources, or, secure fuel for growth, or, as we lovingly say, don't run out of cash, right? Don't run out of money. I think those are the three main roles in my view of leadership. And I have care right at the center of it. If you don't care about people genuinely, you're not going to be a good leader. You're just not. And if you're like, I don't really want to care about people, I'm just running a business. Fine. Then just be happy with not being able to grow a large, thriving company with great people. Like they don't want to be around leaders who don't care.
And they can sniff that out very, very quickly.
They can sniff it out. Yeah.
Like they know if you truly care about their well-being, or you're just being facetious and just trying to get them to achieve some sort of goal. And it's so I think care is one of the most important things. And you got to understand that, these people have trusted their livelihood with you, right? They believe in your vision at least enough to come in and collect a check. You got to be careful, because it might turn into just collecting a check. And then now we're in deep water, and these people they're not motivated. They're probably not doing the job as well as they could. Right. And so one of the things that we measure a lot of our team against, and this is just internally, right? It's like, how often are they coming to us for more work? And because the most engaged people that we have in our organization are asking for more responsibility. Yeah. They're raising their hand. They're like, oh, that's cool. Can I get in on that? Hey, in one of my presentations that I do, I have like a little message, a Slack message from one of our employees, but saying things like, hey, my plate's already really full, but let me know if there's other things that I can take on to help out. And so that's what, for us, like an engaged employee looks like. And again, we're lucky that we have big ambitions and a leader who's able to cast a large vision, a vision large enough that, myself and everybody else in the organization can see their own personal goals being achieved within the organization. I think that's huge too. It's when it comes to vision, being able to cast something that, our sales team can see themselves hitting their personal goals in the vision, our marketing team or whoever, everybody feels like they're moving forward and they have the ability to achieve their own internal goals along with the company's goals. And I think that's huge. So
it's essential. Yeah. Extremely powerful.
So how, with the elite coaching, what does success look like for you? Do you just ride it all the way out to the moon, or like, how do you measure success for your students?
So we have, like, you know how this goes. In order to like scale it's not just a coaching program for us. We actually train our own scaling method, right? So we have a method for scaling, and we coach to the implementation. So for us to build something that's scalable for us, we have to have programmatic one-to-many sorts of things that we've built.
Sure.
However, that doesn't serve individual needs extremely well. So we tailor our coaching conversation and the value that they get through our program to the goals that they have in their engagement with us. So I just talked this morning with a guy who's joining our program this next year from the UK. And I reiterated with him, your coach is going to be really clear with you about what you want to achieve in connection with this engagement with us over the next 12 months. It doesn't do any good for us to just deliver a method to you and say, go have success, if it doesn't match with what you're trying to achieve. So we're looking for people who have enough clarity, again, back to clarity, about what they want and what in their life or their business, and then to be able with us to bridge how their time spent with us is going to help them achieve that. So that's how we measure success, is each of our business owners are making the progress towards what they say is important to them with their involvement in our community. So that's how we
love it. And I wanted to circle back to something really quick too that you mentioned. You know that people have to get behind the purpose. So what's the purpose of your company?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'd love to share this. Our purpose is to help elite entrepreneurs build meaningful businesses. So let me say more about that. The meaningful matters to us a ton. There's two sides to that. Meaningful in scale or scope, like the thing that they were doing now is at a level where they're impacting more people. They're having the desired impact on the planet, whatever their why is, that they're doing that at a larger level, and then that it's meaningful to them to such a degree that they just light up, that they get to do this all the time, and their team is passionate about it. So we love to help elite entrepreneurs build meaningful businesses. That's our why. And then on a values front, since we talked about values a little bit, we have 7 of them. I won't spout them all off. I could, but our number one value is we genuinely care. And this is the part I want to demonstrate. We know our values to kind of a next level, so that when we go to hire people, we understand the measuring stick, right? So exactly. We genuinely care reads like this. We listen to and serve people beyond what's typically expected in a business relationship. We love to leave people and things better than we found them. So it's not just a label. There's meaning under it that we all know. Yeah. And our team, we all know it. We talk about, we highlight it every week in our staff meeting. We talk about one of the values. We live it. We review it in our quarterly reviews. I grade them on the value. Like, this is everything to us. And so that purpose to help elite entrepreneurs build meaningful businesses, and those values together make up who we are. And it's totally exciting. And the team, I got an amazing team. I pinch myself all the time. I have zero team drama, team headache, none of that. Because when you hire this way, when you lead this way, it's amazing.
That's our test as well, right? We have our 4 core values, and if I could make it the Pledge of Allegiance, I would. And we say them every morning, right? But we do the core value awards. We do because it's when you have and when you attract those kinds of people, and when you measure against that, that's what preserves the organization. Like you said, there's no drama. The team is just it's a different feeling when you have a company that's purpose driven and that is motivated and all aligned in the same values. So I love that. But Brett, what is, just one thing, if you had to leave this earth tomorrow, God forbid, obviously, what is something that you would want to leave and want people to know?
I would want them to have a very, very deep awareness of how much creation is available to them. I want them to know that you can go create anything that you want. You can create the business that you want. You can create the life that you want. You can create the happiness that you want. It's all very, very available to all of us. And what gets in our way is all the normal things that humans, we forget, and, maybe we're not disciplined, whatever. It's all the normal human condition things that get in the way. But you can overcome those things and create whatever you want.
So powerful. Perfect. Where can people find out more about you?
Our website is growwithelite.com. And we do have a podcast called the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast, where I interview 7-figure, 8-figure business owners, and they're sharing some of their growth lessons. And so those would be 2 ways to connect.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks, Brett. And we'll see you guys soon.